Jim Klauck here on Contractors Stories. Welcome to the podcast. Another great show here on tap. I have a duo. They've been together a long time. It's a married couple. It is Brad and Heidi Black. Hey, guys, how are you?
Hey,
Good.
glad to be here, Jim.
Hey, it's good to see you guys. High performance. Before we get into the nitty gritty about how you got into the business and why you got into it and how you guys work well together, why don't you explain what you guys do and how you help serve your community?
Yeah, what we do is we are really like a home optimization company is kind of like what I like to call it. But we specifically focus on the roofing, solar, and replacement windows.
Yeah.
On that. So we're really optimizing the home to protect the home better, be more efficient, save money, look better.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in
Even
Texas,
better than we found it.
yeah, and in Texas we have these storms, tornadoes, uh, high winds, possible tropical disturbances. Some worse than others depending upon where you are in the state. But you guys deal with I know a lot of hail and possible tornadoes, straight winds, and other things. And the roof is an important part of the structure. It's really the first line of defense from the sun, the wind, the hail, the rain. Occasionally snow, but it's not a big deal, but occasionally snow. And so what makes your roofing product and service better than the others?
Well, one thing that we have that's exclusive to us is we call it the Texas Proof Roof.
Mm.
And with the insurance industry changing, deductibles going up, really the days of just replacing your roof with the same old shingle every year doing that every couple of years, people thinking they're not going to pay anything for it has really gone away. And so homeowners really need to be thinking about putting a better roof system on. And so it's a metal roofing product. It's actually guaranteed to never leak from hail of any size for 40 years.
Wow.
And it looks great. It's solar reflective too as well. So it saves you energy. And so we really call it kind of the future-proof roof, but in Texas, we call it the Texas-proof roof.
Yeah,
Now we have it on our own home as well.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
so it's aesthetically pleasing. It's beautiful. It basically helps reflect some of the radiant heat. Is that what I understand? When the sun comes down, the Texas heat, it instead of absorbing it, it's more likely to want to go back up a bit, which is good because it saves money on utility costs. The AC is not running as much. The insulation gets a break. Kind of like a radiant barrier of sorts on the outside of the roof, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's got pretty much everything. It's got 40 years. That's a long time. Usually you hear 15, 20-year roof. Those numbers vary. But a 40-year guarantee?
Yes. Yeah. And it's transferable as many times in that 40 years too. So it's to the next homeowner.
Yeah, I was at the doctor recently for a checkup, and he is not giving me a 40-year guarantee. So it's it's tough at the end of my life, I guess. Let's talk a little bit more about you two, how you got into the business, how you work together. Also, the entity itself, because I understand it's a minority-owned business, which I find interesting as well, right? So why don't you talk a little bit about that? How did you guys get into the business?
Yes. And I want to just put in a plug real quickly. We were talking about the Texas Proof Roof, and there's a lot more to that as homeowners have to think more forward on future forward on replacing the roof less often. We did put together a site, multiple videos just to break that down, texasproofroof.com. They can get all the details about the different options we have available for that Texas Proof Roof.
Perfect.
So,
Perfect.
yeah. As far as why we got started, was that the question? How
Sure.
we got started?
How did you get started? And, tell me a little bit about what makes your company unique, because I know that you make it clear that you're minority owned, which I know it's you, that makes that up. And why is that important? Why is it different? What makes you guys so special?
Yeah, I know we've talked about this, and some people ask, what makes you certified woman-owned? So I went through the process years ago of we're certified residential, commercial, up to the federal level, and why that's important from as a company when we're pursuing jobs. Commercial companies, they've got to award a certain percentage of jobs to minority businesses. So that would be a reason, I guess, why they would award jobs to us. But from a standpoint of both on the residential and any job that we're doing, one thing that has been vocalized to us is, I think as a woman-owned company, there's a certain attention to detail that maybe when you have, I don't want to say that men don't have attention to detail, because many of them do. There's a certain level of care, of nurturing, of awareness to certain things, maybe within the team as well as in the community, things that we can do to give back in the community. And again, it's not that men don't notice these things, but I think when you have the dynamic of Brad and I and the team that we serve, and like just recently, we blessed a single mom and her children with, she didn't even have furniture. I was actually doing an outreach ministry project with our church, and I was praying with this woman, and I learned of a need, and our team was looking for a family to bless over the holidays, and not knowing that when she opened her door, I looked in and she had no furniture. So we were able to find her a couch and a dining room table and chairs, and a Christmas tree was something her kids really wanted, and then at Christmas we were able to take gifts and just bless them. So I think there's just a certain awareness when we're so kind of head down, butt up in the business of doing construction. Sometimes those other factors might be missed. So we try to notice things.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So how did you guys get into this business? You've been married for some time now. You've been together, but you haven't always been doing this. So how did that happen?
Yeah. Yeah. We will be celebrating 25 years in 2025. Got married when we were 10.
Yeah.
No,
I
not
understand.
really.
I understand.
No. So being married, I mean, we were married for 16 years when we started the company. And I will say that anyone who's married knows that marriage is not easy, right? Like it's a constant choosing your heart, choosing to just die to ourselves in a way. But no, we really did. We overcame some really hard things and chose what we were going to fight for, which was for our marriage, for our family, for our future. And that's a whole other amazing story, how we overcame some really hard stuff and really beat the odds. But we came to that place before we started the company. So in 2016, I had been in real estate previously. Brad had been in the construction industry, more so in windows. And we lived in the Northwest. We moved to Texas in 2013. And we were coming to a place of wanting to raise our boys in Texas. We had visited friends in Texas and really saw something amazing here where we wanted to plant roots. And ultimately, we started the company in 2016, a few years after we moved to Texas.
Yeah, we didn't really plan. We'd always been entrepreneurial. Like even when we first got married, we were always doing some kind of little side business or something, or online marketing. And we always kind of had this vision to work together, but it was never working. Like
Our butting heads.
We never had anything work. And then I was in sales, and just for my career at the time. And when we moved to Texas, we definitely didn't have a plan to start I actually thought I was getting out of the construction industry completely.
Mm-hmm.
There was this kind of other opportunity with some friends. We thought we were going to help them launch another bit, like a nutrition business. And then that totally fell apart.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of got back into the insurance roofing side of things with another person here for a couple of years. And then in 2016 is when we started the company. So it kind of.
Yeah. I will say one of the things that prompted it, because like Brad said, we did talk about trying to do something. We actually had attempted to do things together. But I'm kind of stubborn and hard-headed, and I had a lot of pride, and had to kind of come to the end of myself on certain things. And really, I didn't always value the strengths that Brad has. We went through a season in our marriage, as I said, without going into great detail, where, there was a time when I would say to him, like, Brad, why can't you be more like me? Like, just be outgoing and walk into a room and smile and engage with people. And come to find out that if I were married to myself, someone like me, it would drive me absolutely nuts. And the value of the strength of his, he's more the contemplator, and he's going to process and come to a decision and do the research and be very definite once he comes to that place, and just pause, versus me, I'm going to move. And when I recognized the value in what we bring together and really honored him for the strengths that he brought, that really wasn't until about 2015 that I came to that place. And so it was through just a season of us being in agreement that it was time to start something together, that we had the vision of, he'd been exposed to roofing. And again, that was never something I ever thought I'd be the CEO of a roofing company. But I had a background in real estate, and we saw an opportunity to create something special here. Yes, there are a lot of roofing companies in our region, but we also see a lot of just kind of one-man band working out of a home office. And we really saw the opportunity to create more of a leadership development culture where there's a level of care for people to grow in all areas and to develop a team and a culture that we could pour into. And that's really what we've done. So that vision began in 2016. Our first year in business, we out of the gate, 5 million in business. Our second year, 9 million. And those were working out of a home office. So if someone's watching this and maybe you have a little thing and you're thinking, I want to turn it in, you absolutely can start that way. That wasn't the vision to continue that way. So we had an office, and we now have a larger office in downtown Frisco, a little warehouse here. And we have, where we can come together in our conference room and, cultivate a culture here with our staff of something unique, something special, where as a team, we went and blessed that family. And for instance, that I mentioned a moment ago, they were so grateful to be a part of that, being able to contribute in that way. And when people tell people, that they're working here, and we have people invite others that want to work here to be a part of something that's kind of different than maybe what exists in this space. So that's really, we saw an opportunity to create that leadership development culture with core values, faith-based, that we could help people grow in not just one area, but in all areas.
So your culture is different than others in your field and in what you do to provide the roof, let's say. But also the product is different as well. So how do you position yourself in the marketplace against your competition, who is traditionally going to be applying an asphalt shingle like everyone else does? I mean, a roofer's a roofer. I know exactly what roofers do. I can pick my shingle from the suppliers that they suggest. They're going to send out a crew. They're going to take off the old roof. They're going to put on the new roof, 1, 2, 3 days, whatever it's going to take. They're going to clean up, pick up all the nails, and off they go. So what's the difference?
Yeah, and even when not everybody's going to choose the metal roof we were talking about, and so a lot of the things we do are other just ways we do a roof, or the product we use is going to be upgraded from what they currently have. So we're going to address things like the ventilation in the house and look at, okay, let's do a solar powered ventilation. Not only is it going to vent the house better, like pull that hot air out more efficiently, but it's also, you get a tax credit from it as well. So there's a benefit there. And then using rubberized asphalt shingles. We primarily use Malarkey roofing products. We have other ones too we're certified with, but that one particularly, just in the real world environment, even though you have other things that are labeled class 4 or impact rated shingles, when in the real world performance, the Malarkey class 4 performs better. And so that's what we put on homeowners' homes. And so when we put on a rubberized asphalt class 4 shingle, solar powered ventilation, we have, and then just in terms of the install, just the care, we have a W-2 employee on-site person who's there that is overseeing the job. So we're not having like our sales reps oversee the job. I think that just, you get a better product on that.
Yeah. And you mentioned, we can say that this particular roofing system's better, but we've proved to ourselves, for instance, that just this spring, we had a storm here locally, which is not uncommon that we have storms. And because now we've been installing this particular roofing system for a couple of years, we've been in business for 8 years, but we've been installing this particular roofing system as we really refined it and dialed it in for a couple of years. And we've had now, as of this spring, when we had a storm, we went to inspect roofs when a homeowner, a previous client, hey, my home was affected. Can you come and take a look? I don't know if there's damage. And we looked at roofs that we replaced with I mean, no damage. Like,
And then the next door neighbor who had a different shingle that was same age roof, so same age. These were both like 3-year-old roofs, had holes in the shingle. And
like
so
in the ridge, there were holes in the shingle. So we can see side by side, not just say it, but we can prove that our roofing system will withhold.
So the thing that's been
Withstand.
the thing that's been driving the market, and when you were asking about how do we market it, that's probably been one of our biggest challenges, because in the business, kind of the roofer's mentality, like when we go to events or we've been on trips, supplier trips, and you have hundreds of roofing owners, and we'll ask each other like, hey, what product do you use? Oh, why do you use that one? And a common answer is why they use a certain product is because it shows the hail the best. Not because it handles the hail the best, because they want to have repeat business. So they want to replace homeowners' roofs over and over and over again. And so that's why they use the product, which has created a cycle of replacing roofs. And so, they're not going to tell it to the homeowner, but in reality, that's what they're doing. And so we just decided not to do that anymore. And our thing was, let's get referrals. So that way, when we go inspect that homeowner's home that doesn't have damage, and the neighbor does, the neighbor now is going to want to put what we put on the roof, not what the last roofer put on their roof.
And we have spoken about it briefly, but with deductibles going up, homeowners were used to paying 1%, and now we're seeing 2% and 3% and even 4%. Homeowners cannot afford any longer to replace their roof every few years like they have, or every 5 years. Because now, as of 2019, a law was passed, homeowners are required to pay their deductible, and we do operate that way. We look at where we can, whether we can finance it for homeowners or do other ways so it's less out of pocket to them. But ultimately, they're not going to be able to afford to do what they used to do. And so as a roofing company, we're proud to be one of the few who says we're looking to replace your roof less often.
Yeah. And really, if you replace someone's roof and it's going to last a lifetime, you're going to get referrals from it. And honestly, the chances of you replacing a roof that you've put on that only lasted 3 or 5 years probably isn't all that good, because why would the homeowner want to go back to you? There's lots of choices to buy the same roof that went out. And so it's like a car, right? You buy a car, it only lasts 3 or 5 years. You're like, well, maybe I'll try a different car. Maybe I'll get luckier. So you've got a great product. You position yourselves differently. And in your business, like I said earlier, you really have to, because you don't want to just be another roofer, right?
Right. No.
Yeah.
That's not why we do what we do.
Yeah. And so I like to tell people that if you're really a good home service company, a supplier of service and a supplier of great product, you're a people company, because people buy from people. People buy from people they know, like, and trust. And it's your reputation. I like the fact that you have a great team that you've cultivated. It's so important when they go out to the home, and it doesn't matter who it is, they're all salespeople, because they're selling your brand. They're selling what you're offering. A lot of people don't understand that. Every time someone calls your office, that person who answers the phone is a salesperson. They may not be called a salesperson, but they're at least a glorified customer service person, right? Because everyone needs to be treated well. And if you treat people well and you put on a great product, you're going to have a great business, and your competition isn't competition. I would argue that you don't have as much competition as people might think in the roofing business. Would you agree?
I would say that the way that we do what we do, that there is not as much competition. It really narrows the field. We know of a few that operate the way we do, but it's not common.
What would you guys? Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say one of the other, differences or things that are not very common is having a team structure versus an individual structure. So we have a production person, we have a field person, we have a customer service, person that are all part of a team that supports that one project. Whereas a lot of companies, and these are all W-2 employees too as well. So versus a lot of employees just have, sales, they'll call them project managers, but it's basically just that one person
Wearing all the hats
to each one of those things. But balls get dropped, or if that person's gone or something like that, that's it's just a different experience from a customer standpoint.
No, absolutely. What would you two do differently if you could? Let's say in your business. I know that you two are married, so let's not get into that. Let's talk about the business, right? Over the past 8 years or so, is there anything that you would do different if you could go back in time, 8 years, 6 years, 5 years, 4 years, 6 months, because you look back now and say, gosh, if we had only done this? Anything?
Because one of the things that we're doing right now, or in the works of doing, is becoming more of an employee-owned company, or share in equity.
Yep.
I would say I wish we would have started that sooner, early on, to kind of offer an opportunity kind of for ownership in the company sooner to our employees, or to people that were
Profit sharing model.
like some kind of employee owned or profit sharing model. We would talk about it back then, and but things were moving so fast and changing that it didn't really happen. So I think there are certain good people I think we could have kept around if we would have had something like that earlier.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and we grew very fast in the beginning. And, I think this answer is geared more to someone who's thinking about starting a company. When you have a high revenue generating model, we could do a lot of sales with this particular model because we're selling kind of high ticket items and collecting a lot of, bringing in a lot of sales. But on the back end, because we hadn't run a company before, our AR and our collections was not really strong. And anyone who owns a business knows that it doesn't matter how much business you do. It really matters about how profitable, what do you have at the end of the year to show for it. In our first few years in business, not only did we not have a great process, but my right-hand person early on, who was really helping in the financial aspect, was stealing from our company. So just having checks and balances in place, and understanding the importance of, even though maybe when you're first starting, you're thinking, we're not a big business yet, but you do have to kind of put on a business person hat and seek wise counsel from people who've been there and done that. So those are just some other things from the business owner side that I wish we had done earlier.
Yeah, I'm sure you two would agree that running a business is not easy. They say marriage is difficult. They say stopping smoking or drinking or losing weight or getting fit is difficult. Running a business is brutal, brutal. For those that are younger people and younger in business, do you have 3 tips you would give them as they start their new business? It could be anything from making sure you hire the right team members to getting a loan or not getting a loan, partnering, not partnering, those types of things.
I would say one would be to find a good coach, like somebody who is ahead of them that they can, like a mentor or coach that they can work with. That would be one.
Yeah, we have a couple. We have one kind of more personally, and then one on the business side. And then recruiting, continuing to recruit. That's one thing we got really busy in, just the work. And we, like Brad said, I think we lost some great people along the way. We had, just like any industry, you're going to have people go and start their own. You train them, you develop them. And at first it was it kind of hurt. It felt like a little bit of a stab in the back, but really now, being 8 years down the road, I say more power to you. If you think you can run a company, because really the reality of those people, there's only one person who's left our company who is successfully building a business currently. And it's just not as easy as people think. Just because they can sell doesn't mean they can run a company. But to answer your question on what else we would tell a younger person, one of the things that's been interesting is my personality I can be a mover, I can kind of be a driver. And early on, I would just kind of head on. I would, whether it was a type A salesperson or someone, I could be kind of aggressive. And I know that there were certain people who had names for me. I was the bulldog. I don't know. There were names I know for me earlier in the company. But we have people with us who've been with us now for like 6 years, who have said, Heidi, I've seen such growth. And this has been very intentional, to where I don't have to fight every battle. I don't have to hit everything head on. I recognize that most things will work themselves out. And as we have a great team in place and great processes in place, I don't have to be the one that has to go head to head on everything. And so I would just encourage those that are maybe wired like that a little bit to just like take a step back. And now I'm told I bring the peace, which is pretty cool, because that wasn't the case early on.
I know some advice that was given to me before we started our company, and I've just kind of observed this because you mentioned taking on a partner. I would not recommend to do a partnership unless it's your spouse, just because that it rarely actually works out long term. Usually there's something that's going to divide that partnership up, and it can be very messy later. So I would not recommend doing that. I think especially in the roofing space, it happens a lot. So like two sales guys are like, hey, let's partner together, start a company. It's very common. I would just recommend not doing that or figuring out a different way to do it.
That's where the profit, like a profit share, like,
Yeah, you just got to be careful about how you split.
versus a partnership.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
a 50-50 partnership is, I would not recommend that. If you want to do it, and prove me wrong, do it. But I've rarely seen it work long term. So.
You're right for the most part. My friend Dave Ramsey says the only ship that doesn't sail is a partnership. And very, very few do work. He will say the ones that often will work are maybe, doctors' practices or law firms, but they generally have their specialties and they kind of need each other for those. When it comes to straight out partners in any business, it's hard enough to run a business, right? And not only that, if partners are married, there's really 4 people involved now. There's the spouse on either side, and that's troublesome for the whole thing. So I totally agree. It's very challenging. That is sage advice. Do either of you have a superpower? Something that you're really good at? It's what makes things special for you in the business.
I mean, I would say Heidi has a very good intuition. I would say as a superpower, like even from seeing a customer or an employee or even just recognizing if someone comes in and we're going to have a hard conversation, she can, she almost can see something else that's going on, like the underlying thing before they even bring it up. I would say sometimes, I would say that's her superpower.
Yep.
Yeah. And I mean, I would say for Brad, he's proven this in our marriage and in business and in life. And that is he's just steadfast. He's a steadfast guy who, actually one of our coaches has told him he's the anvil that people can beat their life out on and he will not change, which is a huge strength. It's really his superpower because, he's dependable. He's reliable. No matter what, he's just going to continue to be the guy that he always has been.
Yeah, it's important to have that steady, solid, right? Always there, steady and solid, and all of these characteristics of ourselves. We personally need to understand them, don't we? We need to know who we are, so you know what you can handle. Because you two, as we discussed before, are quite different, which is good though, because it's the yin and the yang. It's the, hey, I'm good at this, you're good at that. It's the, I'm really stressed out. Can you help me with this? Because I know you can absorb me right now. That type of stuff. And you guys appear to have a fantastic relationship, not just personally, but in the business. And it is hard to be in a partnership when you're married. All partnerships, like we discussed, are very challenging. And to be married, well, I'll be honest with you. I've seen a lot of businesses go out of business because of a divorce, because they were both involved and they had to split it. And, then employees take sides and it really gets crazy. So I commend you two on being able to recognize your strengths and work together to build a fantastic business for you guys, your family, and your team.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really, it's very exciting. I don't take a day for granted. I'm very grateful. We continue to work on ourselves. as well as on our marriage. And we actually we work out together in the mornings. We have a routine of how we kind of stay mentally also in, just it requires a lot of intentionality because we're together quite a bit. But we also do things that we enjoy on our own. So, and as a family, we have a boat, and we actually take the team out there too, and on the lake when it's nice. Not so much this time of year in December, but wakeboarding and just being active and shutting off the phones every now and then.
That's great. Well, Heidi and Brad, thank you for joining me today on the program. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you for having us. It's been really a fun time to reflect on some things together.
Yeah, I'd love to have you two back sometime. How does that sound?
I think that we would love it. Thank you.
Right.
Let's do it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thanks.